So, hey, welcome back to Cage by the Page, your one-stop podcast for getting literary and caffeinated with your favorite hosts, David. Well, one of you go. It doesn't matter.
Wynonna.
Tiffany.
Okay, cool. Now that that's out of the way, today we're going to be stepping into the fantastical world of Sarah J. Maas. Moss, right, or Mass?
Mass Moss. I don't know. I
Well,
think it's
how do
I
you?
said moss, but
Okay, all right. With her captivating novel, A Court of Thorns and Roses. Ooh. Uh, yeah, so prepare to be swept away to Prythian, a land where humans and fairies coexist in a delicate balance, or perhaps not so delicate. Um, and the book's about 19-year-old Feyre Archeron, I don't know.
girl.
Uh,
Or
sh- yeah, Archeron, sure. A skilled huntress. She finds her world turned upside down when she kills a fairy wolf. That happens in like the first chapter, so that's not really a spoiler. Um, to answer for the transgression, she's forced to leave her starving family behind and journey to the magnificent yet dangerous Court of Thorns and Roses. Under the rule of the enigmatic Tamlin, Feyre finds herself in a strange bargain, a year of servitude in exchange for her life, but the fairy realm holds more than just danger. Feyre discovers beauty, friendship, and a connection that transcends human understanding. Will Feyre survive her year in the fairy court? Will she unravel the mystery that lurks beneath the surface? Buckle up, because after the break, we'll dive into the spoiler territory of this book review. But before we get into all of that, whether you're a newcomer or a big Sarah J. Maas fan or whatever, we welcome you with open arms. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on social media. It's at Cage by the Page. That'd be awesome. And yeah, let's get started. So I feel like I'll just start. I feel like the book was pretty good. I actually liked it a lot. It's a really strong start to the story. It's a strong YA romance. I believe it's my first YA romance. I'm trying to think if I actually ever read anything else quite like this. And nothing's coming to mind. I thought Feyre was a really strong female protagonist, which in a lot of I don't know, media in general, that's not what you get. Whether it be video games or movies, you don't get too many female protagonists that are like super duper heroic, yet relatable, and like they have their own flaws. I feel like she had enough to kind of balance like her weaknesses with her strengths without getting a little too like I don't know unrealistic, or some of the decisions that she was making made sense for what she was trying to accomplish at the time. And I feel like Tamlin was a good counterpart to Feyre. Unfortunately, yeah, it was a lot of a mystery behind it, but that kept you intrigued to continue reading the book. You kind of wanted to know like what's up with all these fairies, and why do they have the masks? The masks is a big thing in this book. Um, and yeah, I guess a little bit of the story is that you learn about it's a curse, but he can't talk about it, and that kind of lends to like the mystery of the Prythian court. And the human world is none too fond of fairies because they are fairies, I don't know, whatever. um because there's been a whole war, and between the humans and the fairies, and like humans obviously were kind of on the losing side. I mean, how you gonna beat gods? They're basically gods. Let's be real here. And yeah, and I thought for the most part, especially once you get further along in the book, when Tamlin and Feyre get a little bit closer and you learn more about the different characters that reside within the court. You kind of feel for them. You kind of start understanding more, just like Feyre, which is great because in the beginning you're kind of left to be like fuck these fairies, like because she gets stuck living there.
Mhm.
It's not by choice. It's just kind of like something she had to do for her family. So yeah, I'm going on and on. How about you, Tiffany? How'd you feel about the book?
I loved it. It was, my first book that, like, really got me into fantasy. Like, I'd never really read
Oh,
fantasy all that much before, and, so it, like, really got the ball rolling for me for, like, the romantasy,
ah, yes, the
genre.
romantasy genre. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Well, hold on. When did you read the book? Did
Yeah.
you read the book when it first came out in 2015?
No, it was I think I didn't read it until, like, maybe 2021,
Okay.
maybe?
And
Yeah.
that seems like the biggest case with these books, or her in
Mhm.
general. She gained her popularity around the pandemic.
Yeah.
Okay. So that because the book was published in 2015, so it had a few good years of time to
Mhm.
like build up a following, but the pandemic really like stoked the flames to like people just wanted to read.
Right.
Okay, all right. What did you think about Feyre and Tamlin and all the other characters in the book?
I really liked them. I definitely, got the, um, Beauty and the Beast vibes,
Yeah,
throughout the book.
it's a strong
Um,
Beauty and the Beast
yeah.
undertone throughout the entire. Well, aside from his mask, I mean, he's a hottie, right? I mean, that's kind of he was portrayed like a hottie. Yeah, he could turn
Yeah, it's implied.
he can turn into a beast, right? But for the
Mhm.
most part, he's just a normal looking dude. Well, a buff, normal looking dude, with a mask on that he can't take off because of a curse.
Right.
Mhm.
So okay, do you have any favorite characters in the book? Is it just Feyre and Tamlin, or did you enjoy
I love the cereal
Okay, why?
because he's just so fun. Like, he just loves to gossip.
Okay,
That's his whole thing.
Gossip. You're just like
Mhm.
all about the gossip.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do love gossip.
All right. Well, how about you, Winona? How did you mesh with the characters, the story?
So my first read of this book was in 2015 when it first came out. I
Mm-hmm.
remember because I was on a book buying binge at the time. And I had walked into Barnes and Noble, and this book was in the YA section, and that's pretty much what I was reading at the time. And I bought it alongside of I think Kendara Blake's book that
Oh.
like
Mhm.
this was all around the same time, and because it was just such a pretty cover, I loved that cover. I had to read it immediately.
Mm,
So I did read it immediately, and I would say that the first I don't know how many pages because it's been a while since I've actually like physically read the book, but like the first few pages are not super interesting like as you're first getting into it, but it did give me Hunger Games vibes at first. Like the
okay.
very
Mhm.
first scene where she's about to shoot the wolf and she's talking about how she does this to like, you know, take care of her family. She's going to have to go back into the market and sell
Yeah.
this wolf item, whatever. That gave me very much like the first scene of Hunger Games, where Katniss pretty much goes through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you
Oh
eventually
well, actually, what did you think for family? Like her two sisters and her father,
they're
and
assholes. They're assholes
yeah.
because like, he's going. I believe she's the youngest.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes.
she's the youngest.
She's the youngest, and she is the one that's like making sure that they have like wolf pelts to keep warm and meat through the winter time. And like she's the only one that gives a shit about anything besides, Elaine sometimes gardens, but she gardens flowers, not even like vegetables and fruit and like things that are actually helpful. And Nesta's or not Nesta, Feyre is also the one who is trying to like beautify the cabin by painting on things and like trying to make things a little bit more comfortable in this like fucked up situation. Yeah, they're assholes.
Yeah, I agree with that, but later on in the story, I do kind of like Nesta a lot, and I think you guys have said that it
That's an
gets
interesting take for the first book, but
really.
yeah, most people hate her in the first book.
No, 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 no. Like how Nesta was set up in the very beginning, for sure.
Yeah,
There's nothing like redeeming about her. She's a super hardcore bitch. But like even when I was reading that, I felt like Oh, this is the character that's going to get like some sort of redemption arc.
Mm.
You know, I don't know why I felt that way, but I don't know if I must have messaged you guys, and I said something like that, like when I got to Nesta.
I don't think you did.
I feel like it.
Thanks. News.
I feel like I did. But I just yeah I feel like with Nesta she just well, okay, well I guess we'll talk more later on about Nesta, but
Yeah.
I do think that I'm surprised that you say the first book, oh whoa, that's a hot take or whatever. I felt like what she chooses, how she chooses to handle the situation, the stuff she does for Feyre, you
Mm.
know, that kinda won her some points, no?
I think most people had a very negative opinion of her in the first book. I think
Really?
Mhm.
without any other context, I
I
think
have no other context but this book. I have not
right.
gone
And
on.
so that's why I think it's a hot take. If you had read further along in the series, I don't think it would be as hot of a take.
Hmm.
But because you know nothing about the other books, Tiffany, do you think that's a hot take?
Yeah. Most people don't start to like Nesta until much later in the series.
At
Well,
least book three. At least book.
Yeah.
I'll throw out, I guess maybe I kind of understand where she's coming from about her feelings toward her father.
Ah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like because he's a loser. And I get that.
Yeah, like she has very little tolerance for the way that her father is handling
I
everything.
I think the way she treats Feyre in the beginning is wrong. Like there's nothing redeemable about that, especially with the way Feyre takes care of them. And how much effort she puts in. And yeah, she's the youngest and like Nesta, what are you doing? Like seriously. But overall, like toward the back end of the book, not the very back end, but like, that little part,
Yeah.
I thought pretty good. I thought good. Good for you. Good for you for doing those things. Good for you for being strong in a different way than Feyre. F- Feyre reminds me, she is like kind of, she kind of takes the beatings for her family. She kind of goes through it for her family. Kind of, and it's now her time to kind of get away from it and her time to shine. And but yeah, I feel like Nesta gets it more. I don't know, is more like she realizes how bad her situation is, and
Yeah.
she's mad about it. I don't know what happens in the other books, but hopefully I feel even in this book there was some growth with Nesta. Not that she's like a main character or anything, because you don't see her for like a long time. Like I said, it's just a small part, so I'm not gonna keep on going about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, so did you say who your like favorite character was in the whole book, or
My favorite character, I would have to say Lucian.
Lucian?
Um,
And any specific reason?
I think he was just always trying to. I did think that he would become a love interest. So I was a little bit curious about him because I don't know, they have this like kind of playful banter going back and forth.
Very
Uh,
sarcastic. He's a
very
sarcastic kind of, yeah.
which I have to say is kind of like my type of person. Like that's the kind of relationship that I end up in is like very sarcastic, uh, bantering back and forth kind of thing. But so I liked him, and then on top of that, he didn't seem to have like unyielding loyalty to
Mm,
Tamlin. He wanted Feyre to have more information than she did,
mm,
and he was trying to toe the line. And I thought that that was a pretty like honorable thing to do, especially considering the situation.
mm.
Mhm.
Okay. I
Yeah,
see that. And also he also gets kind of a good scene with Feyre, I think. Oh, well, he gets several good scenes with Feyre, I think.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, he's a good character. I liked him. I didn't really have too many complaints. Again, he's another character that kind of sees how shit the situation is. And I think yeah, if anything, I think he's like more angry with Tamlin. I mean, not really, but more like, wishing that there was another way around some of the stuff that happens in the book
Yeah,
and the curse, and what you guys think of the villain Amarantha?
she's awful.
Mhm.
Awful.
But I will say she is a good villain. Like if
Okay.
you consider like the idea of
Yeah.
villains, I think that like the reason that she becomes a villain is actually interesting. And
Mhm.
it's not just as simple as, oh, this mean old lady is a mean old lady.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? Like she has a story, there's a reason behind her chaos. Not that it's a good reason, but it's at least a reason. And it's something that could be relatable to some people. Um, I also thought that like the way that the relationships play out throughout the curse is really interesting. Like her relationship to Tamlin, her relationship to other subjects that I won't name right now. Like the other like it's interesting to see how people interact with her, interact with the curse, and figure out a way to manipulate her through her own manipulations.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, she definitely got her comeuppance.
Yeah.
Mhm.
um. Okay. All right. So do you guys how do you guys feel in terms of rating 1 through 5? So, Tiffany, why don't you start?
I think I remember I gave it a 4.
Okay.
I think that's what I did,
How
yeah.
does it stack up against some of the other YA fantasy novels that you've now read? Like, does it still
Oh,
hold up?
it's definitely yeah, it's definitely up there.
It's still a 4.
Yeah.
Okay. So for
Um, my first rating was a 4, but then as I read further on in the series, I think I would have knocked it down to a 3.
okay.
I'm gonna stick to my 4 only because like that was my first initial reaction to it. And the only reason why I would knock it down is because I felt that there was a little bit more context that we could have gotten with Tamlin and with the curse.
Mhm.
And that's really my only
Yeah.
issue. But I think like emotionally, it's a 4. If I were to think it completely like logically, it's a 3.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like with the curse, like you were saying, with the curse and the how would you have given that context? You know what I mean? Like, because the curse is what it is, right? Like, they're not supposed to talk about it. They can't. So how would you give it more of a,
You know, that's a good question. I guess I didn't think that through.
yeah, I because they're not allowed to talk about it, and the way the Amarantha plays her little fucking games,
Yeah.
she kind of tricked them all into that, right? And yeah, it's kind of funny that a human is able to, be the better end to that. Um, but yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know.
A human who can't read too.
Yeah, she can't read either. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Oh,
Which is antithesis to Beauty and the Beast, which I feel like is purposeful.
mm.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast is like a super reader, and Feyre can't read at all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like maybe going forward within the series, yeah, maybe I'll feel differently, but I'm probably gonna give it a 4 as well. I think it was a strong first book. Like I said, I really enjoyed Feyre. Now because there is a series and that there is more stuff for some of the other characters, I'm sure, to get to know them even better. I mean, it's just, yeah, when if I didn't have if this was the only book, okay,
Mhm.
it still bow ties it pretty well, right? Like everybody kind of, there's like little threads and stuff, of like what could happen next, in terms of the big grander world of Prythian and all the different fairy high courts and stuff. It gives you a lot to think about, but you create this love story between the two characters, and that's kind of where it bow ties, right? They're
Yeah.
so yeah, I'll probably give it a 4. Definitely. Yeah, I guess, she could have drawn out the book to be like a couple hundred more pages or something to give more time, I guess, with the characters. So that's kind of it. All right, so I guess we'll talk a little more like in depth about the book now. So spoilers. Um, we already kind of went through a little bit with Feyre. So yeah, she's feeding her starving family. She basically kills one of the fairies called Andros. Andros, right?
Hmm.
Andros, whatever.
Yeah, she uses a special type of arrow. It's like a wooden, right? It's like wood, ashwood.
Ashwood, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Kills Andros, and because of that, um, Tamlin come.
Not just kills him, she skins him too.
Yeah, she skins him too, and then sells his skin
Hmm.
Yeah.
in the market. And also in the marketplace of her town, 99% of the people are totally against fairies, but there is like kind of a culty, churchy thing that's like all about the fairies, and they're like, oh, they're gods, we should be like bowing and respecting and giving prayers and kisses and I don't know, feeding them or something. Grapes, feeding them grapes is what I was thinking, but yeah, I mean, you can't see what's in here, guys. So yeah, so that kind of also gives more like, ooh, I'm sure this cult thing is gonna come into play. It doesn't in this book. Um, I'm pretty sure like whatsoever, unless I'm misremembering, right? But is it? I mean,
I don't
uh,
think it comes into play at all in this book.
is it? You don't have to go into detail, but is there anything to do with this cult later, like in any of the books?
I would
Like a smidge.
I would say barely. Like if you forgot
Yeah,
about this, it wouldn't be a big deal to you.
That's
yeah.
very interesting because she did spend a little bit of time talking about them in
Hmm.
the very beginning of the book.
Yeah, the children of the blessed or whatever.
Yeah, and so interesting that that kind of doesn't really
I think
materialize.
it comes up maybe one or two times.
Yeah, I remember at least one time it coming back up later on.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely not a big plot point. Like if you forgot the
Yeah.
plot point entirely, which I think I might have, honestly.
That
I
and that's quite all right. I just she did spend that chapter about kind of being beware of these freaky cultists,
Yeah.
and stuff. But I mean, whatever. That's interesting that the author kind of forgot her own. Because I thought maybe, oh, later on something maybe, or maybe in the series, something maybe.
no, I
Nope.
don't think so.
Okay, well,
But you know what? We might inspire it
oh
for the
yeah.
next ones.
I hope so. So yeah, she goes into town. She actually sells the pelt to the only person that will take it, which is a mercenary, another female mercenary, I believe. That is able to kind of stomach the idea of like, oh, this is a big wolf you got there. I don't know. Kind of is like kind of on the nose, like, this could be a fairy. This kind of is like a dire wolf, kind of too big to be a normal wolf. But again, the only person that will take it is this lady. And I believe she's later on in the book, Nesta, and hires her or something, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So after that, the Tamlin comes in, barges in beast form, as a werewolf, and basically it tells them, who the fuck killed, this fairy. Like, I am the leader of the spring court. You're coming with me, kind of thing. It's kind of, well, it's either death, you can die, or you can come with me. You know. Actually, he doesn't even really give a choice. I think it's just like, you have to come with me and live with me in servitude. And that comes into play in terms of the curse and stuff later on. So she goes unwillingly, but it's kind of like, well, to spare my family, I guess, because I guess he would have killed the rest of her family. Um, and yeah, so they go in. We learn that he's a high fae, because there's like different tiers of fae, like lower that are monsters or goblinish kind of creatures, the naga and stuff. And then there's like high fae that are rulers of like the different courts. There's like the night court, the spring court, the summer court, all of that kind of stuff. But they all have to, when they're in human form, they all have to wear these like masks. Actually, yeah, are the masks on them when they're beasts? Or I guess Tamlin is the only one who can turn into a beast, right? That's his like special
Yeah,
ability.
because obviously Andres was a beast. So
Mhm.
like
Oh,
he
okay, yeah. So there are, yeah. Yeah, but I was thinking
I
like, do
don't
the
I don't remember
I
if the
don't
mask.
remember. Yeah, I don't think it's talked about, but
I'm
also
almost sure that they don't have masks when they're beasts.
interesting. Where does it go? Where does the mask go? Where do we
That's
put the
the question.
masks?
But that's the question of like all shape shifting style of books,
That's
right?
true.
Where does it all go?
Yeah, like,
It just gets absorbed.
clothes. Yeah, clothes. Magic. It's just magic. I guess we can go with that. Um, so yeah, Feyre, is going with him to this high court, the spring court. But she obviously wants to get the fuck out of there as soon as possible. She learns a little bit about the history and stuff, with the fairies and including their inability to lie. And yeah, there's some myths that were kind of baked in for the humans and stuff, like like haha, stupid human. um so but she develops kind of like a bit of an affection for this lady in waiting that she has, because they treat her really well. They treat Feyre,
Mhm.
even though she's a prisoner, very very well. um so Alice is the lady in waiting, and she's another fairy. um you know um Tamlin wants her to explore the things that she loves. For example, she loves painting. That's kind of what she was doing back at the cottage, but Nesta was such a bitch about her painting. She was like, fuck you. How dare you bring art to this home? I love living in fucking squalor and gray walls and shit.
Give me destitute.
Yeah, I don't, so like I said, I understood she's a bit of a bitch. Didn't like her in the beginning, but I warmed up to her, I guess. Um, Tamlin, wants her to even improve her reading skills and stuff, and he tells her like, oh, don't worry, your family's a-okay. I'm taking care of them, which that's good. But she can never visit them or see them. That's the only like stipulation of this. Like, she has to just be stuck at the court, even though he offers her like everything. Like, he fattens her up. That was another thing. She was all skin and bones because she was living like a destitute with her, family, and hunting and stuff. So yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of this part of the book where it's just kind of like this intro area?
I think this part was probably like the most like uninteresting part. Like I don't know. I think the problem with Sarah J. Maas, which I've talked about in other videos, is that she really loves exposition. She loves to like explain everything that's going on, which I, I think it gets a bit excessive.
Mm,
But I will say that A Court of Thorns and Roses is significantly shorter than pretty much every other book she's ever written.
mm,
Not entirely, but definitely like one of her shortest books, I'd say.
okay.
Mhm.
Um, but I enjoyed the banter between her and Lucian. I
Mhm.
enjoyed like kind of her exploring the Prythian, exploring the court, kind of trying to get her bearings.
Yeah, some of the what is it called? Like, in the middle of all of this, there's a whole like fairy that got its like wings ripped off. That was interesting. Kind of
Mhm.
kind of starts you off onto like who the fuck did this and why, and that kind of Tamlin was so affected by it. That was another thing that kind of like, oh, okay, maybe he's not such a bad guy kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know. And she kind of picked up on that. And what about the attacks? Like, the Naga were trying to kill um Feyre, and Tamlin comes in, rescues her. That's kind of nice,
Mhm.
some of those kinds of scenes. She does try, like Tiffany was saying, with the what was it called? The
The
leprechaun.
surreal.
Yeah, it's kind of like a leprechaun. Like, if you capture it, it's like with leprechaun lore. You capture it, and it has to tell
Mhm.
you where the pot of gold is, or whatever, or grant you a wish.
Yeah.
In the book, it's more like, yeah, it has to tell you the truth or something. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, she was trying to find out what the fuck's going on with the masks and stuff.
Mhm.
So I mean, some of this part of the book, and then we get to the big hot scene of like, um, there's like a
Alan,
night. What's that?
Callan Mass, is that what you're talking about?
Callan Bass?
Mhm.
Callan Mass.
Oh yes, yeah. The ritual, right? The
Yeah,
big night
Yeah.
ritual, um, where Tamlin has to mate,
yeah,
pretty much. But it's kind of like they all the fairies get a chance to like fuck it out, um, which is kind of funny. How'd you guys feel about that whole scene about them, doing this kind of ritual to kind of like what reinvigor the court, right? Like the magic
Mhm.
kind of gets regenerated if Tamlin like chooses a mate and stuff, and he does choose a mate. It's not Feyre, although she walks in and watches some of these carnal delights. Uh, and I believe that's the first time we meet Rysand, right?
Resand, yeah.
Mhm.
Rhysand. Okay, yeah, and he's an interesting character. He kind of gets her out of a spot of trouble with some rapey fairies, right? Um, and kind of swifts her away a little bit from there, and lets her go too. Um, yeah, and I think at that time he believed that she's just like a plaything that kind of stumbled in or whatever.
Yeah.
So he didn't really think much of her. Um, yeah, I don't know. What would you guys think of that whole scene? And then it's a build up, right, to when they
Yeah.
actually
Mhm.
do have sex and stuff. Tamlin and Feyre, because Tamlin's been kind of lusting after her a little bit, and she kind of starts lusting after Tamlin.
I think this was the first scene where I was just like, I don't know about Tamlin. Because before, like I've read enough, like I wouldn't say romance novels because I didn't read a ton of romance um, before Court of Thorns and Roses, but I've read enough romantic themed novels to know that like he's clearly supposed to be like the first love interest, right?
Hmm.
Um, but the time where he's like, I guess I just have to mate with this other person. I don't know. I didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I know it's, like,
It
it's just a part of the story, but like,
it was, I get, yeah, it was weird that but I get, if you're kind of basing it on lore, like folklore and stuff.
yeah, it's in the plot, but like personally, emotionally, I didn't like it.
Right, because oh well, you're saving yourself for your true love, right?
Yes.
What about you, Tiffany? Any comments?
And he's blonde. You can't trust a blonde male main character. You just
What
It
can't.
really can.
is that a thing?
It
Yeah.
absolutely is a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not just with Sarah.
No,
Mm,
like if it's a blonde male main character, I'm like, I don't trust you.
Okay, yeah, Tamlin kind of comes off like a himbo, I guess. You know, like I prefer Lucian. You know,
Hmm.
yeah,
personally.
I mean, Tamlin does come off as a himbo.
Hmm.
But Tiffany's right. In romance novels, it's always tall, dark, and handsome. Always.
Hmm.
Always.
Gotcha,
And when it's not, something's wrong.
Hmm.
gotcha, gotcha. So yeah, after that they kind of couple. They did you guys like the sex scene? It was coming off of Marry Me Cute. I mean, I don't remember when I read this exactly. It was somewhere in that area of like December between Marry Me Cute and this. Maybe it was right after I read Priory. Um, coming off of that, like looking back on Marry Me Cute and this in terms of sex, that's all I gotta say. It's not very descriptive. It's just it's more passionate. I will say it's like more passionate. It's more emotional. It's more yeah. It's
The
not.
first
It's
book is
good,
definitely her most tame.
right?
That's
So
for sure.
there's levels to like sex in books. There's Fade to Black, where like
Mhm.
it's happening, but you get no descriptions of it. Then you
Yeah,
have
Hmm.
Spice, which is like passionate, but there's not a ton of like
descriptive language.
descriptions of like genitals or anything like that, right?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
get a description of ass or boobs or something like that, but you don't really get like a ton of description of the actual act of sex,
Hmm.
right? Or there's Smut, which is Marry Me Cute, which is Priest, which is a bunch of other books, which is also Akatar in later books.
Yeah.
But even so, I would still classify it more spice than smut in
Yeah.
most of the scenes, except for one of the books, but that's a different story.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was good. Yeah, I don't need um Sierra Simone to write the sex scenes on this. It's
No,
fine for what it is. I think it was more. It was definitely a better love story than "Marry Me Cute."
for sure.
Um,
For sure.
so I totally am cool with the way it like was portrayed. And it's more like, oh, this could be a show on Netflix off the first book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
way easier, I think, to digest with that kind of like screenplay, I guess.
Which I do think was intentional for Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely do believe that she intended for the series to become on the screen at some point, whether it be a movie, TV show, whatever. I think that was
Mhm.
intentional.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot that needs special
There's
effects. It feels like a pretty cheap show to make, really, aside
yeah,
from some transformations and stuff and some magic, but again, very tame. and
yeah,
and
that's
like it. Yeah, and I was gonna say the what is it called? Yeah, I mean, it really lends itself to that kind of format for sure. It's like that show, Bridgerton. Bridgerton?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Bridgerton on Netflix. Yeah, it kind of gives that vibe, you know, where yeah, you could totally pull this off. Just put a little like magic in there, magic bullshit, and it's like that's it.
Yeah, you need masks, cut to wolves,
hmm
um, and some CGI once you get to later in the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there are like we were saying, there are some like creatures and stuff like the Naga, and then there's that Amarantha's like big guy. What's his? I forgot what the title of that thing was, but it's like a
The Midgard worm.
well, yeah, there's that. Oh, the worm would be kind of an expensive thing to make, I guess. But there's like a bat winged creature thing that's like a bodyguard for Amarantha. Yeah,
Oh,
but it,
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't it doesn't really matter. He's just a brute. There's not really much of a story with them, so it's just like he's the muscle. So yeah, they keep talking about the blight and how Tamlin is kind of losing control of the court and he's kind of weak compared to when he used to be because the curse is screwing with him, and so one day, Rysand, who works for Amarantha, we learn, comes and visits and sniffs out um,
Feyre.
Feyre. Yeah, even though they were trying to hide her using all sorts of fairy magic and stuff, but it just wasn't doing it. But supposedly, if Tamlin was at full power, he could just fucking kill anybody and anything with a look. He wouldn't really need much, but yeah, it kind of doesn't work. So at this point in the story, he's just like, I don't think you can be here anymore. You kind of have to leave. I'll send you back to your family. But she's like in love with him now, and he is also in love with her. But it just like yeah, you know, she can't say it though that she's
Yeah,
in love with him. That's the big key thing. Like, that's all she needed really to do, but she can't bring herself to say it. So she gets carted away back to her home, and believe it or not, Tamlin was true to his word. His dad, or his dad, her dad, rich again, doing well off, making all the right trades and all this stuff. I guess with Tamlin's magic, and connections, he's able to kind of influence politics in the human world. It's kind of weird, right? How that works out. And but they're wealthy. They have a lot of gold and stuff, so I guess that kind of covers it. And her father and sisters have all like been tricked with fairy magic, glamored, I think is the term. Where they thought, oh well, she was off, Pharaoh's off, taking care of a really wealthy aunt, and now the aunt has died and has passed her fortune off to Feyre or whatever, and that's why she's back home, but all richer than ever before, and everybody's doing great. But yeah, or yeah, it was an aunt. But Nesta is like, no, the glamour never worked on me, and that's another thing that kind of like is like great that bless you. Uh,
Thank you.
that Nesta was able to see through the bullshit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was kinda cool, and, a little bit earlier back, there was a scene where, you know, Feyre kinda thought that, oh, her dad was coming to save her, you know, before she got really into it with Tamlin, but it was just a trick with one of the pukas or something. I don't remember the name of the the creatures, but, in fact, Nesta did try. Well,
Yeah.
she never got far. There's like this barrier between the human world and like the rest of Prythian and the Summer Court and whatever. So no human can actually enter it without being kind of led in by one of the fairies.
Yeah.
But Nesta did try. She did look for her, and she never believed that her sister was safe or any of those things, for obvious reasons. And while her father and her middle sister, I guess, it was just like glamored and, you know, happy with their lives.
Yeah.
And so Farah kind of tells Nesta, hey, listen, if you know, if the fairies come for you or whatever, you know, make sure to grab, you know, our sister and father and just get the fuck out of here, because there's no like stopping it, because she's kind of realizing that, you know, what the blight and everything that's happening over on the other court with Rysand and like Amarantha, which she's heard whispers about now, and getting more of a fuller like grasp of like how bad it is over there, that, you know, yeah, they might come and, you know, um hurt her family. And because in fact I believe that Rysand learned about her. Well, not her in particular. So she had to give up a name because Rysand asked for a name, and the only name she could think of is some girl back in the village. And unfortunately, she learns that that girl in the village got immolated, you know, by Rysand's like goons or whatever, and just like because on Amarantha's orders, because
Yeah.
it's not really Rysand, it's really Amarantha that wants to control Tamlin, control the Night Court, and or well, she already controls the Night Court, but she wants to control all the courts, and just kind of killed what she suspected would be the way that Tamlin can, like, you know, free his people and stuff. So what did you guys think of this part of the book where, you know, Nesta and she goes back home and all of this stuff, and Amarantha's like wrath?
I'm trying to remember this part of the book, honestly.
Well, it wasn't memorable enough for you guys?
Well, because I remember her going home and there being like kind of
A celebration. They have a celebration for her to
they
come
have
back.
like a celebration, but Nesta's still very cold.
Hmm.
Like trying to explain like her perspective on things, and Favor's trying to not let too much on,
Hmm.
but Nesta's pretty cold the whole time. And then Favor basically says, "I can't do this. I need to go back." So then she
Yeah.
goes back to Prythian, and I'm assuming I think the wall fell at that point, right? Because
Hmm.
that's the only way she would have been able to get back in without a fairy.
That I don't remember exactly. I remember she's able to get back in, but not like the specifics. I don't think it even matters, to be honest. But once she finally gets back in, she sees that the manor has been, like, you know, abandoned, and you know, there's
Alice is inside, and Alice kind of tells
yeah.
her like what happened, like
Uh-huh.
the whole curse, and like
Well, she still she can kind of give her like more info, but not really enough to know how to break the curse.
well, because I don't even think Alice really. Well, no, Alice knew, but she couldn't.
No, I believe they all know that.
Yeah,
Well, okay, we'll just say the way to break the curse is, you know, a human has to fall in love and say, like, truly that they love a fairy, a high fairy, which is difficult to do because of the wars and stuff in their time. Like Tamlin is like thousands of years old, I believe, and they've kind of seen their fair share of like wars between humans and fairy, and even between fairy and fairy, kind of.
yeah,
So yeah, it's unheard of. It's unheard of, but that's Amarantha's curse. It's like what, and the reason Amarantha created this curse, we learn, is because I believe her sister fell in love with a human who betrayed her,
yeah,
like brutally betrayed her. And then that human ended up being like a fucking eyeball in a vial or something that Amarantha likes to shake around every so often and being like, "Hey, bitch," but it's still conscious. Like his consciousness is in that eyeball. That human's consciousness is in the eyeball, and he could see everything that's happening. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, she fucking hates humans. Like truly, Amarantha really like despises humans. And so that's why she's like immolating people that could ever break that curse, because she wants to break Tamlin and be like, listen, there's really no other options but for you to like be my lover, like wholeheartedly and whatever, back in my night court. So yeah, you gotta give it up. And Amarantha, I believe, was like a general for this other court that I don't know, wanted to take over the world or something at some point, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Something like that. There was like a king, right, of a
Yeah.
different court.
The King of Hybern.
The
Yeah.
king.
Hybern, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And she was like a big dick general, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, okay. I'm it's been a little minute. It's been a minute since I read the book too. So
Yeah, it's been, I think I reread it in 2022.
okay.
Yeah, I think I reread it in 2022 because the dramatized audiobooks came out, which I really enjoyed. I don't know if you guys have heard the dramatized audiobooks,
Nope.
Mhm.
but they are very good. Like every single character has its own voice actor.
Mm.
So that's a
Yeah.
pretty fun way to like experience the
Mhm.
book. Um
I do like that idea where, yeah,
yeah,
it's like a play, or I don't know. Yeah, it's good. I like that.
yeah. So, but then I remember that after she like learns everything from Alice, she goes back to, like, she tries to traverse through all the courts
Hmm.
to get to Under the Mountain,
Yeah.
and that's where she actually like learns about the curse, like learns more than what Alice could give her.
Yeah, she becomes a captive under Amarantha because, I mean, come on. I mean, she is just still a human. Like you can't
Yeah,
just walk into the court and just expect to be like, yeah, exactly. So she becomes a captive. They kind of abuse her for a little while, like do little mind games and stuff. Amarantha specifically. But yeah, we learned that Tamlin is like her, Amarantha's bitch. He can't really say or do anything around Feyre. He can only just watch. And I believe Rysand kind of makes her into a pet, sort of. But in a way, Rysand is kind of like trying to save her by doing that, because now if he kind of like feeds her some sort of like, or drinks a potion, and she becomes kind of loosey goosey with Rysand.
yeah.
Loosey goosey. I'm sorry, I'm an old man, I guess.
She's a little
Uh,
drunk.
well, yeah, she gets drugged up, which is also weird to kind of put in this book. No.
Yes, but no. Like I think once you get to the end and you learn like why he was doing what he was
Yeah,
doing.
right. Right. And you do learn that Rysand and Tamlin had been friends. They were friends at some point, right?
Yeah, I think you learned that earlier in the book, no?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we only get really two scenes with Rysand before the Under the Mountain stuff. And at the time, like it's the sex party, and then it's the Finding Feyre, and then it's the Under the Mountain. So maybe it was dropped. I don't remember specifically, but
Because I think Tamlin had said, like, somehow he became the enemy, right? Like he became his enemy.
yeah.
Somewhere in those three scenes.
And we should say that he is actually the part of the Night Court. He is like Tamlin is part of the Spring Court. He is the Night Court guy.
Yeah, he's
And
the
then
head of
and then the Under the Mountain thing is kind of like the all-encompassing, controlling all the courts with this like curse, this
yeah,
blight and curse that spreads all these like monsters into each land and stuff, and they can have peace as long as they kind of like obey Amarantha. So nobody likes Amarantha. They all want to get rid of Amarantha, but they can't do anything. Is the big thing because of that whole curse nonsense. They're all weakened by Amarantha. And so, Amarantha kind of puts down these trials, three of them, to Feyre, and if she can, and a fourth trial being that there's a riddle, right? That if you can solve this riddle, you can set everybody free right now, right this minute. You don't have to do any of the trials. which are more physical in nature. All of them are physical in nature, actually. And so, but Feyre can't figure it out. At least that she tries, but yeah, she can't figure it out at first. Um, so yeah, for her first like task, um it's like Feyre has to use her hunting skills to escape a giant worm in the labyrinth. That was pretty cool. I think her nimbleness surprised a lot of the fairies. I think her succeeding and stuff was cool. Obviously she was going to succeed, but yeah, I don't know. Did you guys like the big worm scene? Kind of relevant right now because Dune Part 2 is out. Kind of dates this video, but whatever. Um, giant worms, giant sandworms. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking about when I heard a giant worm with all these teeth and stuff.
And see, I thought of the Alaskan bullworm from SpongeBob.
Oh, okay.
He did too. That's exactly what I know.
Alaskan bullworm. All right. Well, to each their own.
I think that probably tells what generations each of us are from.
Well, Dune would date me. The Dune was before my time, FYI. But
So
yeah,
he says.
it
Sure.
was. It was. All right. So what did you guys think of the first trial? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you have notes?
I liked it.
I loved it. I think that there was a lot of intensity throughout the scene. It happened very quickly, but in a way that like it was like you had to keep reading. You had to know what was going to happen because she had a lot of like near misses where she
Yeah.
definitely could have been dead.
Well, she did break her arm.
Yeah, she did break her arm. And at that point, you're like, all right, she's fucked, right?
Before this, when she was in the spring court with Tamlin, they were able to like use fairy healing stuff on her. She was kind of safe. Here, she's like dying. She thinks she's dying, so that kind of leads her to like be like when Rysand comes up with like, listen, I'll heal you. Okay, nobody's coming. You're not gonna get healed by anybody else, even though Lucian does appear later, but much later, and he's like, "Well, I couldn't come to you because I just couldn't do it, and because everybody's watching me, But and that's true. I can't take that away from him. But Rysand is kind of like more like he's the big swinging dick. Like it seems like he can really do no wrong. You know what I mean? He has all the answers. He's like this swift, mysterious guy. That just kind of knows what to do whenever. So he's the one who's like, listen, as long as you spend time with me, what is it? Once a month, I think, for a week or a day. I don't remember. Was it a week or a day? Like back in the night court, and also be my whore here under the mountain, then
I think it was a week every 3 months, right?
I think so, yeah.
okay, sure. Then and yeah, and take this date rape drug every night. So we can party. I'll heal your arm, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I mean, I'm kind of feel like I'm dying, so I'll take your word on it," and just like, yeah, sure, I'll just trade that time. Um, you know, but obviously this would aggravate Tamlin to know that his girlfriend is like, with another guy for like however long. So, what'd you guys think of that? Did you like Rysand when you first read the book? Did you like Rysand? How'd you feel about
Of course
Rysand?
I did.
Oh, you did.
Of course I did.
Okay, but okay, because what? Tamlin's just not your cup of tea. Is that what the case is?
It's I'm always gonna like the broody guy.
Okay, so he's like your Edward to your Bella.
Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Wynonna?
I was conflicted because I think that he had more intrigue than Tamlin. I
Okay.
think Tamlin was more, like you said, a himbo. He was very like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'm gonna be soft and make sure that get whatever you need, and like he's kind and cool. But then under the mountain, Tamlin is a waste of space. He's a waste of space. He literally is just sitting there watching her die in every single trial. And Rhysand is doing anything he possibly can to make sure that she's okay.
Yeah. Well, he also bets on her too.
He bets on her. Yeah. I mean, like he's very he's not a perfect character by any means.
Mhm.
But you're a little bit conflicted about him because you're like, okay, everything that he's trying to do is for her benefit, even though he's also benefiting from it. Like he's very morally gray, which makes him more interesting. Whereas Tamlin is not morally gray at all.
Right. Okay.
He's it's kind of a waste of space for that part.
That part of the yeah, the Under the Mountain stuff, yeah, Tamlin was definitely sidelined a lot. And like I mean the point of the story was that, you know, this is how powerful Amarantha is. She can like the strongest of the courts, basically. She can kind of cage up and stuff.
Okay,
And
I'll
that's how
be
dangerous she is. Okay.
hold on.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. That's how strong of a character, you know, she is to kind of like control all these fairies and stuff, and especially Tamlin, who is the love interest, right? So it's kind of like, well, you know, or even Rysand, right? I mean, he's kind of her bitch too. He's sent out to do her bidding in a lot of in a lot of ways. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I I did feel bad for Tamlin because he did have to watch Feyre get it on a little bit with Rysand while, you know, she's all like, you know, twerking. I guess she's twerking.
Yeah, but like, is it? She's drunk in that scene, isn't she? Like, she's
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
she's very much, yeah, she can't remember, and she's kind of like every night afterwards she's like, you know, thankfully I can't really remember what happened, you know, I kind of want to take the drink just to forget that I'm even here because this place is so awful. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of
which you learn later on was Reese's intention. You
yeah.
know, he didn't want her to have to remember this. He didn't want her to have to like experience this trauma the entire time. You know,
Mhm.
he needed her to be um, available inside of the trials. Like she needed to be cognitively aware in those moments. But outside of that, she didn't need to know what was going on. You know, she
Well,
didn't need to remember those things.
it kind of leads you to like being like, "Oh, well, is this the love triangle?" You know?
Yeah,
Now there it isn't really in this book, but I'm assuming there is one.
maybe.
Okay. Okay. You're doing that just to not spoil it, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, okay.
I would assume you would want to know, you would
Yeah,
want to cover the next few books.
fair. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna cover the additional books. Mist is the next one. Mist of Court and Thorns. And
Oh, I can't wait to reread that. I'm gonna reread that book. I love that book.
Is it smutty? Is it a smutty one?
It's more smutty than this one. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Back to the story. The second task is basically her getting impaled, you know, crushed by a big old platform, unless she and also Lucian would be crushed as well. But she just has to make the right choice. I believe there's like some spellings and stuff. She can't read.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it's really any mini miny mo. But she doesn't even really get the opportunity any mini miny mo because Rysand just tells her the answer. Again, you know, just too perfect. If anything, that's the problem. I think he's too perfect of a brooding character where it's like, you know, of course, you know, you're the guy with the edge, but you know, I don't know. What do you guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think by that point you're just in love with the fact that he's doing everything he can to support her, that like you just don't see it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mean, maybe if I was going in blind, and like hadn't already read the rest of the series,
Hmm.
I would, oh, maybe this is a flaw in Resand, but you just can't feel that way after you read more.
Fair. Fair. Well, the third task is basically Feyre has to stab 3 fairies with the Ashwood daggers, which we know can kill a fairy because that's how Andros got. You know, rest in peace, man. You sacrificed a lot.
Yeah.
um, so so you know she's told that this is the only way. Like once she passes this third trial, it's the only way to break the curse. So she stabs the first two, uh, but you know when the third one is up, the hood is removed or whatever, and it's Tamlin. So she's got to kill Tamlin. Oh,
Yeah.
um, and she at first is like, how can I kill the man that she loves? But then they did have a conversation that his heart is made of stone. So she realizes that he can't actually get stabbed in the heart because it's not going to go through. So he can't be harmed, and she knows that Amarantha also really loves Tamlin, so she wouldn't like sacrifice him. That'd be stupid.
Yeah.
So yeah, Feyre, just here you go. Just fucking bitch, die, die, die. I mean, maybe she doesn't go that far, but in my head canon, I think she does. She's like, yeah, fucking stupid. I want Rhysand. I love Rhysand. Right?
We see what side Dave is on at the end of this. Team Reese, clearly.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I did like him. I did like Rhysand. It was just like, yeah, like looking back on it, he's just too much of a perfect bad boy.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. Maybe there's more weaknesses to his armor, like in terms of like, well, I don't know. I don't know how she plays out the character with Rhys. It just feels like he's always a step ahead of everybody, even Amarantha. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just
To be fair, though, he's been with Amarantha underneath the mountain for like what 300 years.
yeah.
So like he has to understand how she works to a certain extent, and also he's her whipping boy. If anybody's going to get the worst of her, it's going to be Rhysand.
Yeah. So, all right. So after that, um, you know, Amarantha just is like, nah, I ain't breaking this curse, you know, and tries to kill Feyre. But then Feyre is like, the riddle me this, Batman. And then figures out what the answer to the riddle was, which was the word love. So, she says the answer out loud and breaks, um, the curse just as she dies from all her like massive trauma
Yeah,
wounds. And so yeah, Tamlin and Rhysand join forces and they fucking obliterate Amarantha. Just like bitch
Well,
slapping her.
it wasn't just her injuries. Amarantha snapped her neck.
Oh yeah, that too. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. She brutally beats her. you know.
Yeah.
Um, so because she broke the curse, all the high lords, the fairy high lords, they decide to give like a piece of themselves to bring her back to life, which was like the only way to really bring her back from the dead. Um, and yeah, they resurrect her, and now she becomes a high fae because she got all that high fae juice swimming in her body.
yeah,
And then yeah, they're free. But at this point, like I said, it bow ties. They're together. They go to the I guess the spring court, back to the spring court, and that's kind of how the book ends. Where they're just happy in love. So
yeah,
so overall, kind of going through it now that remembering some of the stuff, still a four? You guys still feel good with fours?
yeah. So feel good.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I still feel like it was a good intro to the series. I'm interested in getting a little more of the lore. Some of the you know entities in the book are interesting, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing more of those. I don't know if I do. Yeah, hopefully I do. And I just feel like I recommend it. I think that if you're interested in like a YA fantasy with a little bit of love, a little bit of Beauty and the Beast, that's your thing. Yeah, I mean you can't really go wrong with this one. And I do enjoy Feyre as a character. Again, she's got her like weaknesses. I feel like the whole like literacy thing was funny, in terms of it just kind of poking at her with being just a stupid human, kind of thing. And yeah, I'm intrigued to learn more about this like grander scheme with the King of Highburn being such a mysterious, more powerful than Amarantha, set
Mhm.
off Amarantha. I mean, but she betrayed him,
Yeah.
But that's an interesting plot. But he's not under her control whatsoever, and she's not under his control. So just finding out more about how that's gonna lead to like the greater world in general is fun to explore. So yeah. You know, I hope you check us out on social media. At Cage by the Page, for all your, I don't know, literary needs. Um, and definitely we would love to hear your thoughts on the book. Like, did you enjoy it? Did you find Tamlin to be a himbo? Did you find Rhysand to be too much of an Edward or a Jake, or not a Jake, a Jacob, right? Jacob.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jacob.
yeah, is again, it's that tropiness. Did you find the tropes to be kind of annoying, or did you find that they were refreshing? I don't know. Like they put a different spin on things. Did you also love Lucian? Because I thought he was good. I think he was a little bit of a bitch at the end of the book. Toward the end
Yeah.
of the book, under the mountain, he was a little bit. Nah, I can't really help you. I don't know. Like
But Tamlin was a waste of space.
yeah,
Tamlin literally, like underneath the mountain, he does nothing. He
yeah,
sits and watches her
yeah,
basically be beat up
yeah,
the entire time. And
yeah.
then the only time that apparently he's useful is when she figures out that like Amarantha wouldn't allow me to kill Tamlin, because the entire point of these trials is so that she gets Tamlin in the end,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
That's the entire point. But then love.
Yeah.
I will say that part was a little cringe. I'm not gonna lie to you.
The riddly wordplay thing, just
Yeah,
like
the love riddle was a little cringe to me.
I think her going back on her word was a little also like you know annoying, I guess, for Amarantha. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, she
I think as a plot device, it was interesting, and like obviously you're not supposed to trust a villain, right? Like,
it's true.
oh, we're just gonna all follow the rules. If she passes all of these trials, she for sure wins at the end.
Well, yeah, but well, I get it was the wording, I think, of the trials, the way she worded
Yeah,
the stipulations. Like with the stipulation of the riddle, it was clear that no, once she says it, it's the curse is broken. But when it comes to I believe the trials, if she gets through the trials, it was like, you know, yeah, but it will be deferred, for a later date. I didn't say when they would be free if you pass the trials. It'd be like a year or 10 or 20 and whatever the fuck I feel like it kind of thing too.
yeah.
So yeah, so it was, yeah, I mean, whatever.
I think what could have been interesting though is like when he was trying to teach her how to read, because
Mm.
I think that was a part of the
That
story.
that was a part of the story. Yeah, painting and reading. Those were
If he
two.
was like trying to teach her how to read, I think it would have been interesting if like Lucian or Tamlin or like one of the fairies inside the house, like Alice or whatever, if they would have like snuck the riddle,
Mhm.
because they knew that the riddle even before Under the Mountain was a possibility,
The
right?
pro the Yeah, but then you wouldn't have the trials, right?
Right, you wouldn't have had the trials, but maybe she would have been able to refer back to it like emotionally, right?
Mm.
But
Mm.
instead, you just get the riddle at Under the Mountain, and she's
What
she's confused by it the whole time. Not to mention
Well, you
the
you would have to also change the second trial because the second trial kind of picked on the fact that she was illiterate.
that's true, yeah.
So, but that's fine. I mean, you could easily change the second trial. I mean, maybe it's a math problem. I don't know. What
Very
what?
bad at
Yeah. We're all bad at math here, right?
yeah. I don't know. It would have been interesting to kind of like have her experience the riddle in another way, just to like tie it back in. Even
Hmm.
if it wasn't like, oh, she had to read the riddle, but like maybe somebody spoke the riddle in like a poetic kind of way or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
if she had to refer back to it, but instead you just get like, oh, it refers to the riddle. She doesn't understand the riddle at all.
Hmm.
And quite frankly, somebody who doesn't know how to read is going to struggle with riddles anyway,
Mm.
because reading and reading comprehension go hand in hand.
Yeah, but I mean, this was more about feels, you know.
Sure. I don't know.
So,
I
ah,
think that I think that the riddle needed to play more of a role in the storyline.
Not to like ask for any more spoilers, but kind of. Are any of the other villains better than Amarantha further on in the series?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
By like book what?
I think book 3 is probably the most interesting with
Yeah.
next villain. But
Mhm.
I will say that like the villain kind of shifts.
Hmm.
We get
Mhm.
kind of like a weird multi-villain vibe
Hmm.
in further on in the series.
Okay. All right. Well, Tiffany, do you have any closing thoughts?
No.
Okay. I mean, yeah, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like I said, leave us a comment. Did you think the riddle sucked as much as Winona? Or maybe not the riddle that it sucked, but like the implementation
Yeah.
of the riddle mechanic into the breaking of the curse. Yeah, did you think it sucked?
Yeah.
And yeah, so make sure to comment and like and share and all that cool stuff. And until next time, hopefully we get through Priory, right, Winona?
Yeah, we're gonna get through it.
All right, Priory, and then we have a few more videos, and we'll definitely continue with the series. Like I said, I'm what's the TikTok way of Mossverse, Mossyverse, Moss,
Monsters? I think it's just
Moss
monsters.
first,
oh, it's the
yeah.
Mossverse, yeah, because there are other books that tie into this series, but
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, we'll probably look at some more of the different books, and I think Tiffany, you've read them all already, right?
Not all of them, no. There's one series that I haven't touched yet, the Crescent City series.
Oh, okay, but that's a new series, like that just like started, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The last couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll dive into all of these and just see if, if Sarah can keep us interested, keep us going, with all these different characters and stuff that kind of intertwine, made her own universe, right? So
Yeah.
all right,
Mhm.
until next time, guys. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.